Welcome to the podcast for this week. Finchy,
Matty.
Kenty, how you going, boys?
Flying.
Plenty going on. Get back up our old way. We'll get to that in a minute. But firstly, Kenty, good tip last week, Hard Knocks.
Yes.
It's been going for quite a while. It escaped me, but interesting, which is the Oakland Raiders and John Gruden as they go into this really important season. But interesting, a fellow from the States direct messaged me over Instagram and said that we spoke about last week, how good was the Raiders to open themselves up? He said, no, the NFL imposed it upon them. Apparently there are rules, which is they don't do it to a rookie coach. They won't do it if the club has brought in a rookie quarterback who's going to be their first choice. And if they've been done the previous 2 or 3 years, they don't oppose on for the next term. But the NFL go and say there's no argument, you're just doing this.
There's a couple of things out of that, Matt. One, our game doesn't have the strength to do that. Secondly, if in fact we had forced that upon a club, so you are doing this, they'd all carry on with a little bit of shit on their liver. You know, coaches would be narky on camera, covering their mouth, not wanting to talk, telling the camera to get out of there. Whereas Gruden, as coach, has just embraced it and just basically say, okay, this is it. Let's do the best we can to sell ourselves.
And it just really shows you the difference between the culture of our coaches, and US coaches. Now, it takes you a little bit to get used to it. I thought John Gruden, I don't know what I was expecting, but, mate, he's a showman.
Of course he is.
Yeah.
He's charismatic.
He's a performer.
Yeah.
And there's bits of it, I don't know how that would go constantly in an Australian sporting team.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of bullshit in there.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. There's a lot of bullshit.
Yeah.
And the American players buy in and they love it.
Yeah. Yeah, they celebrate that over there.
Before we move on to rugby league, just quickly, Ashes Test, Ben Stokes' innings. Jeff Boycott come out and said it's the greatest innings he's ever seen. That's a fair rap from a bloke like Boycott.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. There's been some good ones over the years.
It was fascinating to watch, Matt. I obviously tuned in like most people, and you're watching. 3 for you thought, okay, it's got to be a problem here, and then suddenly it's 7 for, quickly 8 for, 9 for, and then when Leach comes in at the end, you think, oh, the Aussies have got him now, and Stokes just cuts loose.
Unbelievable.
He's not inhibited in any way, and he was so aggressive the way he the way he attacked the ball. The Aussies, it intimidated them.
Yeah, it did.
Suddenly, it's gone from, because he clearly knew he couldn't sit there and rely on Leach to just hold up his end. Yeah. He had to get the run
too far out with it.
That was too far away.
Last shot just went crack, just opened his shoulder.
Reverse sweeps, the one where he taps it behind him.
Unbelievable.
Like that's
Brave.
test. This is 2020 type stuff.
What are some of the greatest innings of all time? Like Dean Jones, the 200 at Madras.
Yeah,
is one of the greatest.
I remember Steve Waugh over in West Indies.
Oh, him and Curtly Ambrose. Yeah, that was unreal.
I remember Dean Jones asking Curtly Ambrose to take his...
He did take his wristband.
Yeah, then hit him for 2 4s and land up, and then he got bowled.
I tell you the best. I heard a story the other day. They say Sir Garfield Sobers. It was the rest of the world versus Australia. I think it was the SCG or MCG. Sir Garfield Sobers, the great West Indian all-rounder, got 254. And Sir Donald Bradman and Ian Chappell say it's the greatest innings of all time they've ever seen. And Chappell was great friends with Sir Garfield because Sir Garfield Sober, when Chappell was very young and coming through the South Australian system, he came out and had a season playing Sheffield Shield with South Australia. And Chappell tells a story that Sobers taught him about leadership, taught him about toughness, taught him about like just the placements of cricket and the nuances of that. So they were really good friends. And he said at the end of the first day's play, he went over to see Sir Garfield because he sensed there was a real bee in his bonnet the way that he was playing his shots. He said it was just incredible aggression, and he said he wasn't really engaging with anyone on the field. Anyway, what he'd learned was that Sir Garfield's Australian wife had left him that morning. And he walked to the crease and just went right just took all his frustrations out. So Ian Chappell went over at the end of the day and said, "Hey Gus, how you doing?" And they had a beer together.
I would have thought he would have been happy, not frustrated.
That's why he was at the shoulders.
And he said, and he didn't. And Sir Garfield said to Ian Chappell, "My wife left me this morning." And Ian Chappell said, "All right. Could I get a number? Because the only way we're going to get you out is she gets back."
I'll bring her back in the morning.
But here's one. Did you know this? Sir Garfield Sobers was born with 6 fingers on either hand. Did you know that? Now, this is not a joke. This is true. It's in his book. He was born literally with 6 fingers. When he was a young child, the one on his left hand just naturally fell off. And at high school, through constant teasing, he cut the 6th one off when he was at high school. Incredible.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Hey,
I'm going to look that up.
Google it.
I am
I
going to look that.
I swear to you.
Just because they'll Google doesn't make it right.
Just on cricket.
It's on Google.
Just on cricket before we move on, just a story. I was thinking of this the other day. Actually, Fletch reminded me of it. We came in to do the Monday night show a number of years ago, and I've walked into the green. Mate, I'm terrible with faces and names. Like, my wife just goes, please don't guess. You never get it right, you know. So I've got there and I've walked in and a couple of cricketers there. And, yeah, I was left with one of them, big, strong bloke, and I'm going, oh, what is it? And I've got, oh, that's right, Ashton Agar. So, oh, they go and Ashton, we're chatting away, and, you're sort of proud, I remembered his name. We're chatting for about 45 minutes, and talking about the game that night. I'm going, oh, yeah, chat, Ashton this, Ashton that. He's a really nice guy. So we come out, we've done the show. We come out later, and I've said to Fletch, well, look at the cricket. And I said, it must have been a rain delay. He said, no, it's live. I said, mate, I was just talking to Ashton Agar. Here he goes. Oh, for f***'s sake, it was Mitchell Stark. Before we talk about the Newcastle Knights, Trevor Gillmeister, he revealed that he's in a cancer battle. We send our very best to Gilly. Yeah. What a player. What a player.
One of my favourite memories of Gilly was actually had nothing to do with footy. I remember watching the footy show. It was about 93, 94. And they crossed to Gilly at the Ekka.
Yep.
And Gilly was blind. And he had his Gilly show bag and had like a little tomahawk in there. Then it got into like blow up dolls. He finished it always with, it's one of Gilly's favourites. Hope it's one of yours for the kids at home. And anyway, I think he went off track. He started telling jokes. And I just remember sitting there watching it. Back then, how he could get away with that, it was outstanding.
There's a story that went around about him when he was playing at the Roosters before he went back to the Broncos. And he was just a little tough bloke from Queensland, obviously. Came down, he was in Bondi Junction at ATM one day, and he's getting some cash out. And a couple of blokes behind him have basically stuck something in his back, knife, give us your money. And he's had a bit of a peek over his shoulder. And he's gone right elbow, left elbow, boom, boom. Two blokes just hit the ground. And that was it, then walked off.
I roomed with him one year in 1995 with him for a week. It was just so good. He just stories. And he's just one of the great blokes.
He's a great storyteller.
Great storyteller.
Yeah.
But and then playing against him wasn't fun. No. First time I played against him was in '93. We were playing him at Newcastle Broncos. Big game, which it always was. But it'd just been torrential rain. It was like, that much water on the field. And Dopey here didn't bring his screw-in studs. I was from Oldens. So I'm taking the ball up, trying to step and just sliding into Gilly, and he's just rattling me.
Gordon tells a story about playing against him and didn't realise it was Gillmeister. He thought it was someone else. He thought, little bloke, I'll take him on. And it wasn't until Gillmeister's jammed him. He thought, actually,
I remember him and Ciro going at it one Origin series. They just, just set for set. They just teed off on each other.
He jammed Chief once.
Yeah, got under
just
Chief.
Levelled him.
Yeah.
Levelled him out. Newcastle Knights. It's been like an episode of The Young and the Restless. Entertaining, but, geez, unbelievable. And it's just taken so many twists and turns. Came out last night that the coach, Nathan Brown, he is gone. He's just decided, that's it, I'm done. When something like this happens, I mean, you go, who shoulders all the blame? I think everyone does. I think administration.
To a certain extent, yeah.
Administration, coaches, Brownie shoulders some. Yeah. Everybody does. It's been an absolute mess.
Yeah, I agree with you, Matty. I think everyone has some blame, some part in this one. Again, obviously, Brownie felt there was a need to step down a couple of weeks out. Looking back, I can't see how that was the right move. I think you need to just dig the heels in for a couple of weeks and get the season done. Hopefully, lead the team to the finals again.
The players weren't responding, Finchy.
Yeah,
but that's the issue for Brown.
Yeah, I understand that, but I just still think that was never going to. If they weren't responding, then they're not going to respond when you leave. And then the players, that performance, like they haven't made the semis since 2013 was their last. Yeah. Like, this is the biggest game your club's had for 6 or 7 years.
Fire a shot.
And they did not, and there was no effort whatsoever. And for blokes, like if it was a Melbourne Storm team who have achieved everything, or a Sydney Roosters team that have achieved everything, and then they just go, you go, you know what, I can understand. These blokes, a lot of these blokes haven't achieved anything. And they turned up and walked out there like, the greatest team on earth.
Sides like the Roosters wouldn't dare.
Yeah, exactly,
they wouldn't dare because the standards that are in place at that club, it's automatic.
Yeah.
They're professional and they turn up. It's like talking about you said before, where does the blame go and everything. I've always thought the relationship between senior players and a coach.
Yeah.
It's like a marriage a lot of
Yeah.
times. Yeah. And you just got to make it work. It's better off being like that than a dictatorship.
Yeah.
Like early in my career, I was under coaches when you're the new bloke in the team, and the coach, it is like a dictatorship. And that's how it should be.
Yeah.
But as you start to go into a senior role, mate, there's times that I've been under the Wok, when I've been under Malcolm Reilly, when I've been with Chris Anderson, that you're going, what we're doing at the moment's not working, and you can feel the rumbling start to happen. So a few of the senior players get together and we go, mate, can we go and have a chat? You know, and sometimes coaches don't like to hear it. You go, mate, the way we're going at the moment is going to lead to a bigger problem. We've got to fix this.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm saying, you know, it's the failings from a lot of parties in this.
Yeah, I think they've handled it really poorly. I think, Phil Gardner's come out with a statement today that was just absurd. It's more worrying for it's just open letter to Newcastle fans. And if I'm a Newcastle fan, I read that and I'm more concerned. Just the level of delirium that's been delivered in that, please. It's trying to claim they haven't spoken to Adam O'Brien. Like, what have the Roosters been doing? Like, who came in and spoke to them? Someone that looked like Adam O'Brien. Like, is someone masquerading there? Like, it's just it's fantasy stuff. But the thing about the Knights are a club. They're trying to find their identity. Brown said to the players after the game, if I haven't got your support, I'll walk. So have a think about it over the weekend. Now, it's a Saturday night game. By Monday morning, he hadn't received a text from any of that senior group that he spoke to, either in the affirmative or the negative. No one said, mate, we want you to stay on. And no one said, mate, probably best to go.
Yep.
Which is an indication, because very few blokes got the balls to say, mate, you probably should move on.
If we're three senior players here, and the coach comes to us and says, it's probably better for you, if we go away together, and we look and we go, hey, listen, do we reckon it's better he's gone? Then, mate, we've got to go and tell him. We're going to ring him, we're going to go to his house, and we're going to sit him down, and we're going to say, mate.
But you understand what leadership's about, Matt.
Yeah.
And that's the problem that's up there at the moment.
Well, I don't think it's any leadership from any of them. Players,
That's the
coach,
point.
or administration. I can't believe the fall from where they were at the start. I did the Knights Roosters game on the Friday night. I drove up there early to beat the traffic, and mate, they were lining up.
Yeah.
They were 50 metres deep.
That's the sad
and it was
part.
the good old, like it reminded days when I was a young kid going to the Knights with Dad, and you're there at reserve, like they're closing the gates at half-time reserve grade. And then the crowd, they had a great win, and it was like, here they come. Like they were on the doorstep of doing great things. They were in the top four. That was middle of the season. It's bewildering how much it's fallen.
Blake said to me yesterday, he said, he had to go. And, the side can't operate because obviously the administration and the coach are bluing. I said, hang on a second. What about Des Hasler in 2011? Like, Des, all the way through that season, was just knocking heads with the board.
Yeah.
The power brokers in there, wasn't getting on. At the end of that year, he would walk away, but not before winning the competition. Because he was he had relationships with the senior players. They built a firewall around the team, and they were still able to perform. The best teams, the best players, I reckon the best professionals in sport, they invite turbulence and they invite adversity because it focuses them. Where lesser people just crumble.
And it builds resilience, Matt.
Yeah.
That's so important. See, players are so cotton wool these days. They're just mollycoddled. They've got everyone around, all these enablers around them. They want something. They need something. They need some boots. They ring their manager, mate, I need some boots. Mate, go to the shop and buy some. Like, no, I'm not doing it. You get me some boots. They talk to the club. Get me some boots. There's no resilience built in them. There's no, okay, well, this is a setback. How do we get through this? And the good clubs understand that and need to build that into their players. And the clubs that think they're professional, and this is where they get conned. They all do it under the guise that they believe they're being professional.
Yeah, Kenny, the good clubs don't need to build it in. If you make it at the club,
yeah,
it's because you have that.
You've shown it, yeah.
That's to get in the squad, the top squad. If you don't make the squad, well, it's obviously it's not in your character.
Old Boys Day this week. Good timing, because I think some of the players there need a refresher course on what it means or what it did mean, what the standards were. And every club, I that word standards. Everyone has standards. Every workplace has standards. But I suppose just some are higher than others. And it means more to other people. But talking to your dad the other night, like an Old Boys Day up at Newcastle, I know it's really important in other clubs, but it's really significant there. Newcastle started it because, like talking to your dad on your birthday night. I said to the old man, we're just talking about the early days there, and Finchy's dad, Rob, who was there at the very, very start, said, you know what, Matty? He said, what made the club work was that our weakness turned into our strength. We had no money. The club had no money. And he said, so what we did, he said, we poured our energies, the coaching staff, into educating the players, educating the younger players coming through, poured our energies into that. And he said, we poured our energies into just putting in place extremely high standards. And I said, mate, I remember that. Alan McMahon, that first coach, mate, that club to go into there as a young player, it was terrifying because the standards were so high. Like the training was so hard. I remember going there after school, and my head was spinning, just going, mate, you'd be physically sick. I'd be physically sick like the night before that Saturday morning. Every Saturday morning we do it. It was a 9K run through the bush at Blackbutt, these torture runs. And we did it every Saturday morning, and they put you up against your blokes in your position. And it was just, and they would, at the end of it, look who came first in the halves, but I remember there was a part of the run, right, 7 Ks in, called Dead Man's Hill. And it was awful, mate. It was the toughest bit. And the incline was so steep that, you just sort of bog trotting up and down the spot. So I got there one day and I finished the Blackboat run, and mate, I was chuffed. It's the best time I'd ever done. And I'm, my tail's wagging, and Alan McMahon just tapped me and said, mate, can I have your under for a second? I said, yeah. So I'm going, here we go. I'm going to get a rap here. And he goes, why the did you walk on Dead Man's Hill? And I went, Macca, because, mate, would get around the boys that, mate, you're better off walking on Dead Man's Hill, because even if you try to run, you go at the same speed. It doesn't really matter. And he goes, it matters to me. Walk the hill. You walk anywhere, but if you walk Dead Man's Hill ever again, he said, you're gone. And it was he never walked it again. Because Mackie used to hide in the bush and watch people at that point. And he used to have lots of other things like standards. Things like, mate, and I watched some of the juniors play early this year, and I spoke to you about it, Finchy. And I said, where are the standards gone? Because, mate, there's a ball loose on the ground, and one of the young Knights players goes through and tries to pick it up one hand. Macca used to say, dive on the ball. Dive on the ball. I don't care if someone's trying to kick it. Dive on it. That's your responsibility. Other things like that, if we're defending our line, or we're defending at any point, even if you break your leg, we don't care. Get back in the defence line, find a way, show a jersey. Then when we get possession back, then you receive medical treatment. There was one day, and I'm not going to say who the back rower was, but for sensitivity reasons, and you'll realise why. The Knights are defending their line. It's about 1991-92. And there was a bloke called Keith G at the Gold Coast Seagulls in those days, and he goes up to our back rower and he lifts the knee and hits him right in the Jats crackers and drops him. We're defending our line. Game's tight, right? So the back rower jumps up, gets back in the defence line, is in agony, like he's screaming in the defence line. Defends that set of 6. They get a 6 to go half. It ends up being a 10-tackle set. When we get the ball back, he hits the ground. They get on there. They escort him off the field. His testicle had exploded. Right now,
I'll make your eyes
now, in some parts, people in society will hear that and they'll say, "Oh, that's just toxic masculinity." No, that is standards. That's what was expected. That's what was expected.
It was also driven by from within.
Absolutely.
That's the players set the standards at the end of the day, because if the players don't accept it, the coach then has a decision whether he sticks around or not.
Now, they had a hard week last week. I get that, right? I get that. But that performance, here's a tough week for you. Michael Hagan in 1992. Michael Hagan, just before an important match, and Michael Hagan was the club skipper, lost his father. Yeah. And it really weighed on him heavily. And David Waite was contemplating, mate, probably arrest you this week. You're pretty knocked around. Hags went out, played the game. Team won. He got man of the match. Yeah, right. That's how you handle turbulence. That's why I'm saying the best people, when tough things come their way,
wagons, don't they?
Yeah, they certainly do.
Yeah, but that's what you've got to do, mate. And you see the great ones do that. You talked about Trevor Gillmeister. He's in hospital.
Yeah,
on a drip, and Queensland are about to play Origin. He hasn't trained because he's been in hospital. He checks himself out of hospital and turns up at the game
Yeah.
and just says, I'm right to play.
Yeah.
Like he was risking, I don't know, maybe too extreme, but he had a pretty serious illness. And if it had gone bad, it was real bad. But he got up, no, I've got bigger things here, and off he went. And the point is, when he walks in that dressing room and all his team think he's not playing, suddenly he walks in, he puts his bag down, he gets his boots out, everybody else lifts.
That's right.
Yeah.
But that's like if Kalen Pong had come out and put a blinder in Saturday night, you'd cop the strawberry thick shake quote.
Yep.
You'd just say, well, that's just the way the kid. But tell you what, gee, he's tough, isn't he? Nothing affects him.
Yep.
But to talk to the West Tigers, they said they got out there straight away. They noticed a lack of talk out of the Newcastle. Even more concerning was the Knights tried to be a bit joking with them, come to scrums, crack a few jokes early in the game.
Gee.
And then they scored a try at some point, and when they got back to halfway, the Tigers, Benji Marshall said to them, "These blokes are off tonight.
Yeah.
Let's just pump a few into them, go hard for 10 minutes, pump a few tries into them, and that'll be it for the night. It'll be all over." 30-0 at half time. Like,
Joey's comments after the game. The most biting thing was overlooked. It wasn't focused on. Everyone focused on the sabotage comment.
yeah.
It was in the devil's in the detail. He said, the administration, there's people here that sabotage their season. What came next was the most damning because they gave people with weak minds an excuse not to turn up.
Yeah, 100%. Weak minds.
That's right.
100%.
That was the most damning thing. To say that you've created some you've created some drama in the week, and it's just handed some blokes some excuse not to turn up, even though it's the biggest game of the season, and the season's on the line.
And that's why Brownie going now. See, Brownie's now removed that excuse from the players. And I'll tell you what, they're very lucky. You talk about great timing this week's Old Boys Week. The other piece of great timing is they're playing Titans this week.
Yeah.
Because you expect
Titans will have their tails up.
they'll have their tails up and they'll get a bit of blood in the water this week.
They've
Titans.
lost 9 in a row, haven't they, Titans?
Yeah.
They
showed a bit
played
of
well
fight
against
last
Melbourne.
week.
Yeah, they did. They haven't showed much the last.
And
they've been good.
Joey's
They were
comment.
good last week.
I was sort of half expecting some blokes to come out and go, mate,
I
please. There's no bloke who played, throw
More.
Chief, Beds, no one played with more heart week in, week out than Joey.
No one cared more.
No, that's right.
But the big thing too, also, not only you're playing for your season, but there's a young kid on the wing who's 18.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's his debut.
Yeah.
How much does he mean to you? How much do you want to make his debut special?
Yeah.
Mate,
What's he feel? What's he
like,
feeling out there?
I know,
Yeah.
Whether it's your debut 100th game, like milestone games, your teammates, they should be important, and
They should respect.
and then and he was, for a kid playing his first grade game in, adverse situations and, not the greatest environment. I thought he handled himself terrific and played well for a young kid on debut.
Yeah, but you're right, though.
Yeah.
If you're having people through the week saying, what was first grade like, Bradman? And we're going, not as much fun as I thought. Exactly. But if you're right, Bradman, it gets better.
Yes,
Believe
it
us.
will.
Play with 12 blokes who didn't care.
Wow, Manly. There's a side who's digging in.
Yeah.
Big one this week, Manly versus Storm. Some great rivalries over the years, hasn't there?
It is, and they've got a game plan that can worry Melbourne. Their forward pack is as good as any forward pack in the competition.
That was a messy game last week. Ricky came out last week and said they did, but he just went, Des is a smart man. You do whatever it takes to win.
He does.
And he'll be doing exactly the same.
And
You find a way.
And
He did it in round one against Melbourne.
Yeah, and Travojevic is really important, Jake, because Jake gets those big blokes to power and Fanua Blake. He gets them out a bit wide on the edge of the ruck, which can create some, offloads and second phase and stuff Melbourne doesn't like. And they were really good down there. Obviously, they won in Golden Point, which was a crack of a game early in the year. But it'll be a sellout at Brookvale. Hopefully, it's a good day. I know they're predicting rain, but
the history between the club, interesting, 2007, Storm win, 2008, Manly 40-0, that amazing. What's funny about that year, because I was in a unique situation at the time. I was doing some coaching at Melbourne, but I lived in Northern Beaches. So Manly, I remember it was about halfway through that year, right? And Manly, Melbourne had beaten Manly at Brookvale, and there'd been a bit of stink there between. There was Mick Crocker and one of the players got locked into a bit of a stink, which
Surprise.
is and but Manly had sort of won pretty well on the night. Anyway, on the Sunday, I'm sort of walking down to Manly, going to have a swim down the beach, and I walk past one of the pubs there, and a few of the Manly boys are in there. Hey, Matty, how you going? So I'll come in and sit down and having a beer. And they sort of, it didn't sort of Jerryton that I was working with Melbourne, and they start talking about Melbourne. And this is 2008. And they're going, well, we got them. We got them. We got their measure. And I'm going, oh, yeah. And I'm sort of laughing. I'm thinking to myself, mate, watching the game, yeah, no, please. No, we'll get them next time. We got them. We sat down and Des showed us some things. We're going to beat them next time we're playing. Well,
40-0.
40-0.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a great game. Let's talk about best rivalries in the NRL history. I mean, there's ones like, I suppose ones that don't get a lot. Greg Hartley versus Parramatta.
Yeah, that started with Jack.
The referee.
Well, ended with Jack, didn't it? Ding Dong, which is it started in the 76 grand final.
Was it 7 tackle sets he was given to Manly?
There was a 7 tackle set.
It was before his time. 7 tackle sets.
7 tackle set, and obviously a few other questionable decisions. He was accused of being a Manly fan back then. He was actually a Canterbury fan. But that went on until Hartley, I think, 81. He refereed the 81 grand final between Parramatta and Newtown, and that was Jack's famous Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead, which is, I think, was actually delivered about Hartley.
Yeah.
But over the years,
it's
been turned into Parramatta ending their premiership
Broke the
throughout,
drought.
And it's probably more romantic to remember it that way. But
it was about Hartley. It was at the time, yes.
It was about Hartley at the time.
Well, they couldn't win when he was.
Oh, they'd had a poor record under him in the finals, and there was a big debate that he was biased against Parramatta. And Harley's like, I like Harley. He's a good fella, and he's just the eternal showman. He just let it pedal on. He wasn't affected by it, and he understood the whole theatre around the game as well. He was probably the most theatrical referee I've seen that we've ever had. He was terrific.
Yeah. Rivalries in sport. Greatest rivalries.
Yankees, Red Sox was always the big one.
Some of the most passionate ones sort of goes into social status. Like you look at River Plate versus Boca, which they reckon is the biggest.
Yep.
Barcelona versus Real Madrid, which is from the Franco years, the Civil War. Mate, Rangers versus Celtic.
Yeah.
Yeah, Protestant versus the Catholics.
Yeah, they're the bigger ones obviously take on deeper meaning too. You know, you look at Celtics and Lakers.
Yep.
Lakers couldn't win an NBA champion. I think they lost
7 in a row.
Their first 7 ones. Every series championship they'd been in, it was the Celtics that beat them.
Yeah.
Which is just extraordinary. You talk at Ali Fraser. Great rivalry. You talk about some of there's great boxing. Marvin Hagler hates Sugar Ray Leonard.
Yeah.
Hates him.
That's right. After that fight, never fought again. Went to Italy and became a film star.
Well,
could never get his head around
it
that.
got set up. Everyone said they should fight. So they said, okay, let's fight. So Sugar Ray Leonard then gets a detached retina. He retires. Then he announces a comeback. And he goes and has one warm-up fight against a bloke called Howard Davis. And he announces then to Marvin Hagler, I've got a big announcement. I want you to come down. So Hagler flies into town for the big announcement. Sitting there waiting for the super fight to finally happen. Leonard gets up on stage and says, I just want to tell everyone I'm retiring again. And Hagler was filthy. And it was about 4 years later that they actually got back into the ring then. But it was just a whole mind game. And that's the bit that fascinates me about all these rivalries is the mind games and people.
What a Hagler like. He always trained in red. It was his favourite colour, colour of blood.
Colour of
when
blood.
he'd run like, in the cold and he's screaming, war. Mate, search and destroy. Mate, Langer Stewart was going back on rugby. I'll tell you another one that doesn't get spoken about a lot, but because there was that real natural rivalry, not because of the teams, but because they followed each other throughout their playing and coaching history, it was Tim Sheens and Phil Gould.
Yeah.
Sheensy was Penrith, then as player, and so was Gus. But then Sheensy was a Penrith coach, and then Gus come along and won the competition, and he was then
beat Sheensy's Raiders.
Yeah, beat the Raiders. It was Canberra, but also State of Origin. Sheensy was was the New South Wales State of Origin coach. Then Gus come along and had all the success. There was always that rivalry between Sheens and that through the 90.
Yeah, there was that. And
Benny and Steve Walters was another.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That was the famous fight. Don't hit me too hard, Benny. I've got to testify.
That's good. Talking about Wayne.
I was about to tell you a quick one about Wayne and Gould when they were coaching Origin. Yeah, and it was I think it would have been about 03. Anyway, it was at Suncorp Stadium. It was the first year where that was, whatever that was. Anyway, underneath the grandstand is you've got to walk past the away team's got to walk past the home team's dressing room to get to where the little media room is for the interviews after the game. So Bennett stepped out of the Queensland dressing room. Queensland had won the game. He'd stepped out into the hallway and he just had a few people there talking. And as he's talking to them, everybody that's madness inside the Queensland dressing room, he looks to his right, now the corner of his eye, and Bennett never gives it a full look. It's just a little glance. He sees Gould walking along the hallway on his way to the press conference. So Bennett sat there and he kept an eye like in his peripheral vision on Gould coming. And as Gould got close, the right hand went out to congratulate Wayne for winning the game. And just as the right hand came out, Wayne just stepped back into the dressing room.
He's done a bit of that lately too. Doesn't like shaking hands.
No.
Oh, that's good. Mate, what about Wayne the other night in the shares? Just, mate,
It was gold.
It was like yacht rock. He was like, it's like he was dancing on a boat.
And we bumped south where we stayed. We stayed with a lot of the team stayed in Magic Round up at the Pullman there in the Sofitel in Brisbane, and they were such a happy club. I'm not saying they're not now, but obviously they had a few injuries now, but they were playing great.
Says a lot.
You've seen how well they were getting on, and I know they were a lot better. I thought they showed a lot more resilience on the weekend. If they can get a few of their troops back and Sam can get over his quad or groin or whatever.
You saw how much it meant to Wayne.
Yeah.
That win.
You know, they can make a run, that team.
That whole win was built on emotion.
Yeah, it was.
The whole build-up.
And that's the response of a team that this is important. Not only is it you want to win because it's for our finals, but this matters for our coach.
100%.
This is against this bloke who left. You know, you use all those things.
Well, there's no doubt Demetrio came out last week and had a crack at Seabold on behalf of Wayne.
Yeah.
He took one for Wayne, essentially,
exactly.
last week. And the players, they saw emotionally how much it meant. They got up for it, and they lifted, and it shows the difference between them and the other mob.
Yeah, exactly.
Cowboys. Last game at 1300 Smile Stadium up there. It's been a great ground for rugby league, not just the Cowboys. I remember going up there in the early years, and mate, I'd never been to Townsville before. You know,
It's not a place you sort of
but it's a great.
put on your wish
isn't
list.
it, mate? But what a great! Isn't it a great town?
Until you've been there.
It was. I would say for a couple of reasons. It was the premier away game.
Yeah, 100% it was.
Big crowd. You know. Big atmosphere, but after great, what a night out!
It was
they love a drink up there.
Mad cow and
Fantastic.
bullwinkles. And
I didn't know what I was
Bank.
expecting because
best.
I was a bit geographically challenged. I remember our first interview trip. We went to Cairns, and I panicked. I got to the airport and I said, "Mate, do I need a passport?" They're like, and I got up to Townsville the first time and jumped off and went, "Oh, Jesus, how hot is it?" Right. So what they used to do in the old days, you play up there, and you'd arrive at the ground and you walk in the dressing shed to get taped and get your gear ready for so the hour you're sort of preparing for the warm up, they charge the air conditioner. So you're in there just going, oh yeah, mate, you're getting ready to go. You feel really good. And the first time we ever did, we went out there and just did a typical warm up. So we walked out. We're out there for 25 minutes warming up, out in one of the backfields, not on the ground though. So that's one of the backfields. We come back in after the warm up and we're gone. We're just
so hot.
Yeah, it was just, but it's been a great ground. They're great fans up there.
It was a great, like you said. I remember Ricky, we're going up there because just for a coach, it's always keep these boys focused. We've got to win first.
Yeah.
It's such a good night out. And he said, I don't want to hear about the night out till after it. If I hear anyone talking about the night out, that's it. Well, back in those days, the managers from the nightclubs, they would be at the airport. To try and get the team to go.
You jump off, you get the bag, and you're getting in, the coach is going, who are these blokes? And be half a dozen wise guys.
Yeah.
And they'd be, mate, here's tickets to the playpen. And there you go.
All your free drinks.
All free drinks. And you
So,
go,
I was thinking, I remember looking with Rico and me and Rico and Minnie were sort of organising it. And Rico's going, mate, we've got to keep this. Sticky Caesar's talking. We're in trouble. So anyway, so Rico goes, I got it. Rico goes off the side and he makes a deal with the mad cow or something. Don't say a word, we can't mention it now. Anyway, so I thought, sweet, we've got away with it. Stick's never going to know. We're on the bus from the airport to the hotel. The Mad Cow Hotel. Come and join the after party with the Sydney Roosters. They're guaranteed. Like Sticky's just turned around going. But it was such a great trip. I remember they used to have the Holiday Inn up there was the Sugar Shaker. So it was so if you go into your hotel room, you'd walk in and your beds were around the corner. I remember Mal, it was one of our last games up there, and Mal organised drinks back in his room when Mal was coaching us at Canberra. And I remember we're back in the room, it's 5, 6 in the morning, and like I'm 18, 19, I'm drinking with Mal, and we've got our shirts off, and so imagine me next to Mal, and the concierge or the security, there's about 8 or 9 of us in his room, we're drinking, having the best time, and the concierge, security guard comes and goes, bang, 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 whose room is this? And obviously Mal's sitting on this bed around the corner. He goes, mine. And he said, whose? And he goes, Mr. Meninga, congratulations on a great win. Do you need any more ice? Has everyone gone for drinks? And we just went, yeah, cheers. But, that was such a good trip up there.
Now, Kenty, we're going to take this in a certain direction because I'm going to just let people know where we're going here, because this is going to finish with you talking about the interview you did a few years ago with Kevin Spacey, right?
Oh, okay.
Now, I'm just going to let people, if there's kids watching or listening, please, you don't need to turn off. It doesn't go that
No, it's not that bad.
But what about, so I thought, let's do a little thing on weird interviews. What is there people you've interviewed in rugby league over the years? Who is the weirdest interview in rugby league?
Oh, look, there's a couple of players that... Darren Tracy was a hard interview.
Yeah, it was,
because he
was a hard teammate too.
Yeah.
Sometimes
he just sort of talked about. It was like the parallel conversation, you know what I mean? Like you're going along in one line of questioning, and he's answering along this line.
He's not quite getting it,
and the questions and answers, or the answers don't quite marry up to the questions. So you got to keep asking the question, and then you keep going, and it was just you get to the end, you think, what have I got here? Like it just, it was just, it just sticks out. He was a hard one when you ask me, it immediately comes to mind. And depending on a lot of it depends on your relationships. Brian Smith could be very difficult because Smithy, being Smithy, used to start getting really technical with you, and he almost did it as a test of you, you know. So he'd start to talk footy with you, and the more you talk football, the deeper he'd start to get. And it was like I'm going to see how far down the rabbit warren I can take this bloke. And
it was funny, Smithy. I remember when I worked at Channel 9, I found him much more difficult to interview after he won than if he lost.
Yeah, he was, yeah.
I found him quite...
He was a bit smug when he won.
Yeah. When he lost, the vulnerability suited him.
Yeah. Yeah, he rang me up one day and he said, he goes, I don't read, it was a story about you and Joey actually. He goes, I don't read your column, but I heard you had a go at me. And I said, well, Brian, I didn't actually have a go at you. You'll remember the story, Matt. So I didn't have a go at you. I said, it's just a funny story, and I told it. And he goes, no, you're having a go at me. And I said, Brian, I wasn't. And he insisted. I said, Brian, I'm not going to argue if you haven't read the story. And he said, I got told. I said, Brian, read the story. I have not had a go at you. He said, hang on a second. Honey, can you just pass And the story was about the night when he came out and he said he was going to, the week he came out and said he's going to terrorise Joey. How are you going to beat Newcastle this week? We're going to terrorise the halfback. And then you blokes got full of piss that night after Joey shoved his head up his backside in the game.
Yeah, we kept ringing him up.
kept ringing him up all night.
We used to do that sometimes.
Yeah.
We'd get there, we'd go. We'd have a win over a coach sometimes, you know, there was a bit of banter through the week. As the final sort of bit of torture, we'd bump one of the players and say, oh, mate, I was going to catch up with, we did it with Gus a few times. We're going to catch up with Gus for a bit. Mate, you wouldn't have his number, would you? And they go, yeah, good as gold. And they'd hand it over to him. So then by about 2 o'clock in the morning, you'd ring him. Gus used to go, oh, not you blokes again.
I had an interview with Folksy. We were over at Blue once, with like the Canterbury and the Telegraph at the time. And in the end, there was a big peace meeting organised, and we sorted it out. And they said, right, we'll send someone out, folks, because Folksy just was one-word answers, all that business. So they said, send somebody out, and you can interview Folksy and you can have a talk to him. So they sent me out. But I had so many rules. That I wasn't allowed to ask. I'm not allowed this. And basically, I looked at it, I thought, what can we actually talk about? Like, there was so many things that were on this barred list that Canterbury sat down. So I go out there, get taken into his office. He's sitting behind his desk. We sat down and nodded hello to each other. And I'm looking at my notes, and he just didn't want to talk to me. I thought, okay, well, if you don't want to talk, we'll sit here. We would have sat there. It was the most uncomfortable, I reckon 4 or 5 minutes, which was a long time when you're not talking. And then finally looked at me and said, you're going to ask me a question? And I said, well, there's that much I can't talk about. Why don't you just tell me what you want to say and I'll write it down and we can get out of it.
Yeah.
And he relaxed at that point.
Yeah, right.
And then we got on with it. And then he had a picture on his wall of him running the Hawaii Ironman. I think it was Hawaii.
Yep.
And I said to him, it's like, you know, they had like 10 hours, something right there. And I looked at the picture and I said, what was that day like? And he just looked at it. Tough day. That's all he said.
10-hour marathon.
10-hour marathon. Yeah, tough day.
Okay, before non-NRL, weirdest non-NRL interviews over the years, Kenty. Tell you one we done at Triple M. You won't be surprised to know it was weird. We did Steven Seagal once.
I like it already.
Oh, mate, it was bizarre. So we said, "Hey, Stephen, how are you, mate?" "Yeah, I'm going okay. Why don't you just tell me what the weather's like down under there?" "Well, it's pissing down, actually." "Okay, yeah." And it was just so weird. So it was so weird that it was good.
Yeah.
It worked.
I did a really good interview with Johnny Depp one day. I was in London, and he brought out that movie, The Demon Barber of Fleet Street, Sweeney Todd.
Right.
Anyway, I had to go and watch the movie. I hated it.
Surprised. He's put out some budgets.
Hated it. Anyway, so the next day they say to me, "Look, you've got Mr. Depp. You can have him now, and you've got." I had till 2:30, whatever. I think it was 2:30. You got him till 2:30, which gave me about 15 minutes. Anyway, so I go in, I sat down. They said they got some German reporter to come in with me because they were running short on time. Anyway, we sit down and I can't remember what happened, but he started to just have the interview, and me being me, I just said, "Oh, that reminds me," and I told him a story, and he started to laugh. And anyway, so at that point, Tim Burton sticks his head in. "What's going on in here?" And Depp says, "Come and sit down. Come and sit down." And he said, tell him your story. And so I told him the story, and he started to laugh. And then next minute, they started to talk about Sacha Baron Cohen, who was auditioning for a role in Sweeney Todd. And Tim Burton's telling the story about how he was singing, he came to audition Fiddler on the Roof songs. And he's singing all that. So Johnny Depp's taking off Sacha Baron Cohen doing Fiddler on the Roof, and it just turned into this mad interview. So anyway, next minute the lady comes in at 2:30. She said, "Look, time's up." And he said, "Come back in 10 minutes." So we're sitting there, and by this stage, there's just no interview going on. It's just telling stories about different things you've done and seen and all the rest of it. 10 minutes later, she's knocked on the door. She said, "Time's up." He said, "Come back in another 10 minutes." And we sat there, and 30 minutes later, he finally says, "Look, I said, I've got to go. Look, I'm out of it."
That's good. What they say? What did you think of the movie? Shit house.
But he was tremendous, and Tim Burton was too. They were
really good.
They were really good, but they were funny and they were really engaging.
Some people get it.
Yeah.
We had at Triple M, the best two guys we ever had were Tom Jones.
Yep.
Tom Jones was unbelievable.
Yeah.
He was telling stories about, like, he and Elvis were great friends in the old days where he'd played the Tropicana and Elvis was playing. Was it? Anyway, vice versa. I'm not sure. But, mate, they were great friends. He said, mate, Elvis had a person for everyone. He said he even had a person to wipe his backside.
Yeah.
We sort of laughed, said, no, I'm telling you. He had a person. He said, I saw it.
Johnny Knoxville was a good interview.
Johnny Knoxville was good. Alice Cooper's another guy who's great. Because they're older guys and they get it. And they give themselves. They're absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
We wait in bated breath. Kevin Spacey.
All the build-up. Oh, look, the movie 21, I think the movie.
I can't believe you were doing entertainment reporting.
Oh, I was over there in the bureau, and whenever mate, it was torture. Honestly, it was so sitting there listening to.
I have to go watch movie reports.
Yeah, but then you got to listen to the directors just wank on about some movie and
Subplot.
They talk about stuff, and you're thinking, mate, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyway, when I went to do Spacey, I'm waiting to do him, and it was the poker movie, the blackjack movie.
Where he's the sort of
21.
master of all these young
21?
guys.
All the young,
Yeah.
21.
21.
Yeah, so
Very
it's
good.
that movie anyway. And when we're talking before, a couple of the other entertainment reporters, because it's not my beat, I don't know any of these people, and I hadn't interviewed him before, and they're saying, like Mitzi or something like that was the name of the dog. It's Mitzi there, and they're like, yeah. So anyway, my turn comes, and I get walked into his suite. And for anyone that wants to know what it's like, it's literally like Notting Hill, the movie, where you go to a hotel, they take you into the hotel suite that the room that they've hired for the day, and you sit down and you talk. Spacey's sitting back in this chair with his legs crossed like this, and there's a little 3-seater lounge there. So I sit on the lounge, and it's really uncomfortable, and you sort of sink back into it, and straight away there's like this power balance straight away. And look, in hindsight, some of the stuff that's come out about space, you can start to understand the whole scene and how it's sort of set up that way. So anyway, I'm sitting on this lounge. Next minute, this little dog comes in, and it looks like it's been made of leftovers from other dogs.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? There's just,
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. It had short legs and a fat body and little skinny head. And anyway, this dog jumps up and it stinks. Jumps up,
Mitzi.
What's that dog seen?
it jumps up on the lounge and I'm writing my notes and it's getting under my arm to sort of look what I'm doing. And he's starting to giggle at how cute the dog is, and Mitzi, come on now, and mate, I'm sitting there, and this dog, I start to get the elbow just to sort of push it away a bit, and I'm just trying to guide the dog away. Anyway, so the dog, it just won't be, it won't be put off. It comes back again, and he's sitting there and he's looking at his dog and smiling, and he's answering questions. Anyway, I have another go at the dog and it comes back, and then on the next go, I sort of pushed the dog off the lounge and tried to make it look like I wasn't meaning to do it, like I was just sort of moving as I was writing notes. He jerried straight away and just got the shits. So after that, the whole interview, it just went downhill. The good news, Matt, he wanted me out of there as soon as possible.
Exactly.
To finish with the hypothetical of the week, have a bit of a think with this one. Right, if the South Queensland Crushers had stayed in the comp, this would be their 25th year. Give me a brief rundown of their last 25 years if they had stayed in the competition.
Well, I just look at those blokes just in that I played against that weren't picked up from Brisbane. Smith, Thurston, Cronk.
Yeah.
There's three.
Sattler.
Slate. Yes, Sattler.
Yeah,
Slate
he was there back then.
Yeah.
Dallas Johnson was a Brisbane boy.
Yes.
There's
Tchaikovsky played there.
Tchaikovsky.
And the Broncos would have been vulnerable when Wayne left at the end of 08.
There's every chance they could have been the most dominant side in the last 15 years.
Yeah.
Because just by the very nature of the people the Broncos picked up, there could have been every chance that the half and hooker for the Crushers would have been Cameron Smith and Jonathan Thurston.
With Cooper Cronk.
Yeah. What could have been? We might be talking about they got to bring a third team into Brisbane.
Isn't it fascinating, though, how you think if they'd run their business a bit better, how different the competition could be? Because I was talking to Nick Politis the other day. In 1994, the NRL had 27 staff in 1994.
How many got it now? How many do they have?
They won't tell you now, but it's somewhere around 150.
Why won't they? Why is it
Because
such a secret?
it's a sensitive issue because there's so many people. Because the next question is, what are they all doing?
Yeah.
But so anyway, they might tell you, they might come out and dispute that and say, look, we've only got 100, but whatever it is. But they had 27 people. They ran a 20-team competition in 1994 with two teams in Brisbane around the competition. We had a team in Perth. They had $22 million in the bank in 1994. And the television deal in 1994 was worth how much? $4 million a year. That's the competition John Quayle ran. Now we're on a $2 billion competition to broadcast deal. We've got a 16-team competition. We've got no money in the bank, and we've got all these people in there who are seemingly not contributing to the business because they're not making any money. It's depressing.
Yes. No money in the
We need to get.
I know that
We're
feeling.
going to have a beer. See you later. See you next week.
This has been a Fox Sports production.